The wind tore across the endless prairie, a restless spirit that carried with it the scent of dust, sagebrush, and the faint tang of desperation. Redstone, a frontier town carved into the harsh embrace of the American West, stood as a stubborn outpost against the wilderness, its wooden buildings weathered by sun and storm. On the edge of this town, where the last of the clapboard houses gave way to open land, Clara stood trembling on the sagging porch of her father's home. At 17, she was a wisp of a girl, her frame swallowed by a threadbare calico dress that hung loosely on her shoulders. Her face, half hidden beneath a tattered shawl, bore the cruel marks of a childhood accident, a jagged scar that twisted from her left cheek to her jaw, puckering the skin like a poorly mended quilt. The townsfolk called her, "Too Ugly, Clara," a nickname whispered in the general store or hissed behind hymnals at church. It was a name that clung to her like damp rot, sinking into her bones until she believed it herself. Her father, Amos, stood before her, his broad frame filling the doorway. His face was a map of hard lines, etched by years of toil and a temper that flared like dry tinder. His gray eyes held no warmth as they raked over her, as if her very existence was an affront. "You're no use to me," he said, his voice a low growl that cut through the wind. "No man in Redstone'll have you, not with that face. You're a burden, Clara, and I'm done carrying you." He folded his arms, his calloused hands gripping his elbows as if to steady his resolve. "I've made arrangements. You're to wed Caleb Blackthorne, that Half-Apache drifter. If he'll take you, that's his problem now." Clara's heart plummeted, a stone sinking into a dark well. Caleb Blackthorne was a name that hung on the edges of Redstone's gossip, a man neither fully welcomed nor wholly shunned. Half Apache, half white, he was a stranger to both worlds, living in a small cabin on the town's outskirts. He traded furs, repaired tools, and kept to himself, his silence interpreted as either pride or menace, depending on who was speaking. To Amos, giving Clara to Caleb wasn't a marriage, it was a punishment, a way to rid himself of a daughter he saw as unmarriageable, a blemish on his pride as permanent as the scars on her face. Clara clutched her shawl, her fingers twisting the frayed fabric until her knuckles whitened. "Father, please," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. "I'll work harder. I'll do anything. Don't send me away." Amos's face darkened, his jaw tightening. "Enough," he snapped, his voice sharp enough to make her flinch. He stooped, grabbed a small sack from the porch, and thrust it into her arms. It contained all she owned, a spare dress, a comb, a faded ribbon her mother had given her before she died. "You're his now. Get going." He turned away, slamming the door behind him, the sound echoing like a gunshot in Clara's ears. She stood frozen, the sack heavy in her arms.